right. What is up? It's Josh Tate here, and I am starting some sort of a podcast thing here. I'm honest to God, I'm just talking into my phone right now because I don't have a mic. But I've got an old friend, and he does an outstanding job on podcasts and stuff like that. I'll link it in the description. I'm kind of just starting this, like I said, but I was just sitting here thinking. I was listening to one of his podcasts, and I've always thought about like how I've always wanted to talk about my hockey takes and stuff, and it's a pretty good time to do it. It is March 7th, 2024 right now, and tomorrow is the NHL trade deadline. And as everyone knows up to this point, there's been a lot of action recently, and I am going to go through the trades that have happened as well as players I think could be traded and where they might be going. And, we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it'll be something I continue to do as I really enjoy kind of just yapping. And I wish I could get back together with Ryan and do an actual podcast, man, because he and I used to chop it up all the time back in the day. Let's get this going with the NHL trade tracker. Let's see I don't know how updated it is. It looks like it's pretty updated. I'm only going to go through bigger ones, I guess. So like this Riley Damiani from Dallas to the Flames or whatever for Emilio Pettersson. Oh, it's Matthias Emilio Pettersson. My bad. That trade doesn't, like, what is that trade? Come on. Like, who has heard of either of those guys? I mean, maybe if you're a Dallas Star and Calgary Flames super fan, you have, but I'll be honest with you, both of those guys do not appeal to me whatsoever. I think the first trade that really interests me on this list, and this is just because I've always liked Anthony Beauvillier. There's the man texting right now as we speak. I was just talking to him about the podcast. About his podcast. Like I said, I'll link that in the description. It's a Sort of Sports podcast. He does a great job. He was one of my really good friends in like middle school, or not even middle school, like elementary school before I moved, and just phenomenal kid. Anyways, so I'm going to start off with this Anthony Beauvillier trade because it's just weird to me. First off, I completely forgot Beauvillier was a Blackhawk, and he was traded for a 5th rounder to Nashville. Which Nashville is in a weird spot because they're not horrible, but they're not good. It's like very interesting where they're at here. They like I said, they're 10 points out of a playoff spot, or at least out of 3rd in their division, which I guess makes sense, but like I don't know. They've made some really interesting trades. Not only have they made some interesting trades, but they're trading within the division. They're in the second wildcard spot. Okay, so they're in a playoff spot. So I guess the Beauvillier move is sort of like a more firepower move. But then we go down to this next move, and they traded Yakov. I don't know. Yakov Trenin. However you say Yakov Trenin's first name. And they traded him to Colorado, which, once again, that's an inter-division trade. It's just, I don't understand really what they're doing. Trenin's not, like, game-changing in any means. Colorado's just been kind of adding little pieces, I think, other than Sean Walker. That's going to be big. But, Trenin's 14 points in 60 games. Like, he's going to give you depth, but, where are you getting? You're getting younger over someone like Ryan Johansson, who they just traded and who was waived by Philly. Like, I guess it makes sense. He's a big power forward. He's 6'2". Like, that's, size is always a good thing, but it's just an interesting trade. Another trade, and this is another sort of load-up trade that Colorado made, is Brandon Duhaime from Minnesota for a 3rd rounder. Duhaime, I believe he's 26. He's kind of old. Yeah, he's 26. He's having a decent year, I think. No, he's not having a decent year. He is actually not that good at all. But for a third rounder, I mean, when you look at the trades, Duclair just got traded. That's another one. Duclair got traded from the Sharks to the Lightning for a third rounder. Like, that just feels like, or like Tarasenko was dealt for like a third rounder. When you look in the perspective of things, like why is Colorado? I guess it's in 2026, but why is Colorado giving up a third round pick for Brandon Duhaime, who has 8 points in 62 games? Like, it's just an interesting thing, in my opinion. I guess this is kind of a big deal. Not really that big. None of these are really that big. I'm just running through the trades right now and giving my opinions. The Noah Hannafin trade is one that I will talk about because I've got a buddy who is a huge Bruins fan and has been freaking out about the Bruins not doing anything at this deadline, which that's another thing. I've got a list of topics to go on about, and this is the first episode, so I'm just going to kind of wing it, and we're going to just go from here, So this trade here is the Oilers trading for Troy Stecher and a 7th-round pick for a 4th-round pick in 2027. Now, Troy Stecher played for Arizona. There's not much you can ask for there, but that trade really just looks to strengthen the defense of the Oilers. I mean, solid defensive guy. Don't think he's going to add a whole lot of offensive firepower. He's got 5 points in 47 games, but +5 on the Arizona Coyotes that's honestly pretty decent, and he'll only get better playing with Edmonton. Edmonton, by the way, just lost to my Columbus Blue Jackets about 25 minutes ago, which big win for the Jackets. I mean, they can beat those teams, but they can't hold leads. That's a big reason why they are where they are. I didn't even realize this trade went through. Jakob Perreault for Jan Mysak. It's actually a funny trade. Younger guys, both of them. I wonder, is that just like a change of scenery sort of thing? Because both of those guys aren't that old. I think they're honestly both still prospects, maybe? I don't know if Jan is playing. I think they're both in the American League. They're both solid younger guys, though, or at least they were. Like I said, I'm just kind of winging this. A lot of this stuff I know about, but I'm still kind of, you got to do a little, like I got my laptop right in front of me. I'm looking up stuff as I go. Yeah, Jan Mysak is still in the minors, and I believe Jacob Perreault is as well. So that just seems like a trade between two teams that have younger guys that could use a change of scenery and are indeed having their change of scenery, and that's good. Maybe they'll both turn around. Anyways, Joel Edmondson. This is another one. My my buddy, who a big Bruins fan, right? He needs them to get defense. He needs them to get centers, or else they're going to waste this playoffs. And one of the defensemen he sent me was Joel Edmondson, and I saw Toronto and Tampa, and I texted him. I said, "Yeah, he's probably going to Toronto." And then as soon as I texted him that, he got dealt to Toronto for a 3rd-round pick, and a 5th-round pick. See, this is the thing. Edmondson fetched a third. Like, I feel like Edmondson's a little more valuable than who was it? Brandon Duhaime. Like, I don't know. He did. There was an extra 5th there that might add a little bit of value for Ed or Washington, but I mean, that just seems like, I don't know. And obviously, Colorado doesn't really need defense. I mean, they traded for... Who'd they trade? They traded for Sean Walker, but they also got rid of Bowen Byram. So it's like... I don't know. They traded Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestat, though, which is a fun trade and is scary because the West is just loading up, man. It's unreal what's happening over there. And I mean, even the East, I got to get into some of that, too. But... yeah, Edmondson for a 3rd and a 5th. I think that might be a little bit of an overpayment, to be honest. I mean, Edmondson's solid, but I don't know. Toronto always does this. They always trade for or acquire these older defensemen. I'm not saying Joe Edmondson's that old, but they acquire these older defensemen, and then, like, I guess Klingberg's not that old, but Klingberg hasn't been seen. Giordano is similar. Like, they just... I don't know. I don't have I don't have really a bias anymore towards Toronto because Dubas is gone, but I love Dubas. Dubas is my favorite GM ever, and I was so pissed off they got rid of him. But this is just like a third and a fifth for, I don't know, for freaking Edmondson. When you look at the defensemen that were out there, you probably could have got a little bit better value out of there. But, we'll see where Toronto goes. I think Toronto will most likely be an early round exit again, as it just, to me, they haven't been too impressive. I mean, Matthews has been super impressive, and Nylander, but that goaltending, like, they're running Samsonov and Matt Murray, is it? I think. Or is it Martin Jones? It's one of the two. I can't remember. I get it mixed up all the time. But, like, that goalie tandem, like, that's just horrible. Excuse me. Yeah, Martin Jones, Joseph Woll will be solid. I think he got hurt or something, though. I don't think he's in the lineup. If I'm not mistaken, I think he was injured at some point. Nope, he's back. I'm just stupid. I will be honest, I forgot about Joseph Woll. I love Joseph Woll. I think he's going to be really good for him. I'm very high on him, but I don't know. The defense they've got, they also added Ilya Labushkin. Like, the defensive players they got, TJ Brody, Joel Edmondson, Mark Giordano, Klingberg. Well, Klingberg is, I don't know if he's even playing. I remember earlier in the season he was hurt. No, he's not playing. He is still hurt because he's, I don't know. Liljegren's there, Jake McCabe, Jake Muzzin, Morgan. Like, they just have all these, McCabe and Muzzin are two more defensemen that they traded for at the deadline. Labushkin, obviously, I said that right. Giordano, another one. It just, they have so many defensemen on this team, and it's just bizarre to me how, I don't know. I think they have overstocked on defense, and I think it is something that continuously bites them in the butt, because you look at their defense, and they've got some solid defensemen. But then they got Morgan Riley, who ultimately is their best defenseman. They got Liljegren, who I think is... Oh, and they just lost 4-1 to Toronto. They got Liljegren, who I think is... Or no, Boston. Toronto lost 4-1 to Boston. My mind's all over the place. There we go. Liljegren, who's, in my opinion, going to be their next sort of like Morgan Riley. Like, he's their... I mean, he's kind of always like 25 now, but he's like their stud defenseman of the future. And they just trade for all of these older defensemen, and I guess they're not too old. They're like in their 30s. I mean, Giordano's 41, but I don't know. They're just an interesting team to me. And I'll speak more on them in another episode when I'm not just going over trades. Hanifin. Noah Hanifin in a 3-team trade with the Calgary Flames and Philadelphia Flyers. Calgary receives a first-round pick in the 2025 draft, Daniil Miromanov, and a conditional third-round pick in 2025. Philadelphia receives a fifth-round pick. Philadelphia was just a third-party broker in this case scenario. And first off, I think that's a solid haul for Hanifin. I did want to see Hanifin go to Boston, and this, like I said, I've got the big Boston fan buddy, and I wanted to see him go to Boston. He's a Boston kid. He played at Boston University, I believe. Either Boston University or Boston College. He played at one of them. But I was super excited about that. I thought, honestly, if there was any trade I thought it was going to go through, I thought it was Noah Hanifin to Boston. Then Vegas kicked around at him, which Vegas is just getting everyone. It's just unreal. Vegas honestly started the big avalanche of trades in this deadline, because they made that Mantha deal, and then after that it was just stellar deal after stellar deal. Yeah, Hanifin, solid defenseman. There's word that there's maybe an extension at some point. I don't know how much that'll look like. I don't know what the word is. I don't believe he's already signed it. I think they are looking into it. I mean, obviously they're looking into it, but Vegas is just an annoying team, and the fact they're kicking on Gensel too is just, well, okay. That's later. I was gonna say Gensel is kind of already off the table, but yeah, Vegas is being Vegas again. Mark Stone goes on vacation for a few months at this time of year. They get a nice big cap relief, and then they go on and win the cup. I mean, that's just Vegas. I like Noah Hannafin. Wait, did it say 3-year? No, I thought, for some reason I thought I found something that said they extended him, but no, they have not extended him. Yeah, let's move on to Alexander Wenberg from the Kraken to the Rangers. The Rangers are my second favorite NHL team. I know it's kind of difficult to have two favorite teams. You can shoot me, sling me up, do whatever. But I like the Rangers, and I have always really liked the Rangers because the Jackets and the Rangers, long ago, before Artemi Panarin, before, who else? I'm trying to think. Before Patrick Kane, I guess. Before all these, Marty St. Louis, that's another one. Anyways, all of these players from the Jackets, Rick Nash, Marian Gaborik, Artem Anisimov, they were all either from the Rangers or got traded to the Rangers. Brassard, Dorsett, John Moore. There's a handful of guys in there that were Rangers. Dubinsky, Rangers players or Jackets players, and went to the Rangers. And now, obviously, there's Panarin, and I still like Panarin. I'm not a Panarin hater. And now Wenberg. And Wenberg I'm super excited about because my Jackets are not going to be competing for a Stanley Cup this year. Maybe not even next year. Maybe not even the year after because we are a crappy NHL team, and we've got a good future. I'm going to say that. That's for another time, though. Wenberg traded for a second and a conditional fourth. I like seeing Wenberg fetch value as a former Blue Jacket. I think it's great. He's doing solid. 25 points in 60 games will add some depth scoring to the Rangers, which the Rangers they're a well-oiled machine. Like I said, they're always one of my favorite teams here in the NHL. Always a fun one. Let me see if I can pull up their line combinations here. They got Kreider and Zibanejad up top. I mean, that second line of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere is nice. But then after that, this top six is good, but adding Wenberg in, they have him on this. They have Barclay Goodrow playing over him. I honestly would see Wenberg at that third center, and I think New York is going to look to add a winger as well. I do think a second round and a fourth rounder is a little, or conditional fourth rounder. I do think it's a little much I think the second round is good. I think the conditional fourth is a little interesting. I definitely would think Wenberg would just fetch a second rounder. I mean, 25 and 60 is solid, but, it's the deadline. Prices are inflated. A trade that I would look back on, and this isn't even the same position or same scenario at all, was when Bjorkstrand was traded from the Jackets to the Kraken, and he was coming off of a solid season too, and he just got dealt for a third. We just got a third. I think it was a third and a seventh or something. It was some late pick, and it was just he was coming off a 57-point season, and we were cap strapped. We had to sign a bunch of guys, and it honestly, I think that was Mers Lincoln's year. I think it was up. I think there was someone else. There were a few other guys. We had to pay a few youngsters. I think Laine. We had to pay Laine that year, and that was also the year we got Goudreau, I believe. But we traded him for a third and a fourth round pick. And in my opinion, centers are valuable, but a damn near 30-goal scorer is more valuable than Alex Wenberg right now. Wenberg's solid. I'm not going to say Wenberg's not solid. And centers are always valuable pieces in cup-winning teams. To win a cup, you got to have a slew of centers. If you look back on any team that's won a cup, they always have a number one center, and their number two center is not far off either. And this Rangers team, they have their number one. They have their Trocheck. Wenberg, I think, is a good 3. I do think Wenberg's a really good 3, but I don't think he was worth a second rounder. A second rounder and a fourth. I think just a second rounder would have been good. I think it would have matched his value for being a solid center because, like I said, centers are good to have. You can never have too many centers. You can just slot one to the wing if you have too many centers. And yeah, I just think the Rangers paid a little too much. I think they will still be in on a winger, possibly Vetrano. I don't know if they'll be in on Vetrano. Maybe definitely after Gensel gets dealt to Carolina, but we'll just have to see. The Oilers and Adam Henrique. This was another kind of massive trade, as it saw Adam Henrique and Sam Carrick, who fought Matt Olivier tonight, get traded to the Edmonton Oilers, along with unsigned goalie Ty Taylor-Rand in the 7th-round draft pick in 2024. Got traded to the Oilers for Anaheim's 1st-round pick, a conditional 5th-round pick, and Tampa was in there. They got a 4th, but really just a 1st and a 5th, which Henrique is a good player. Henrique has always been a guy that has been around. Like, he's an interesting. I don't know if I'd give up a 1st for him. I guess 42-point guy. He's going to be a 20-goal scorer this year. I guess a 1st is okay, and once again, inflated market. But a 1st-rounder for Henrique in today's game when he's 34 years old, and Sam Carrick's not the best. Like that, what they got for a 1st-round pick at the deadline just, I don't know. I think, let me see what the Thomas Vanek trade was in 2018. I don't know how many points Vanek had either, but I know Vanek was really solid in 2018 when the Jackets traded for him. He had 41 points, so around the same. He would have been 34. He would have been the same age. So that's 2 guys, very, very similar stat lines. 17 and 24 from Vanek before he got dealt, and 18 and 24 from good old Henrique here. And I don't recall us giving up a 1st-round pick for Thomas Vanek in 2018. I think it was like it wasn't anything massive. It was UC Jokinen and Tyler Mott. As crazy as it sounds, UC Jokinen and Tyler Mott for Thomas Vanek. And that was an expiring Thomas Vanek, but it was still a solid Thomas Vanek. That's a 41-point Thomas Vanek who had 15 within 19 games on the Jackets. Different times. That's 6 years ago. I get it. Different teams as well. But the Oilers, man, you're going to give up a 1st-rounder when you were in on other like DeBrusk probably would have been more. I don't know how many points DeBrusk has right now, but that's a younger guy, and to have him on your team, and he's 29-62, but he's probably going to re-sign with you because he's an Edmonton boy. His dad works for the team. He's there. He's had some good years too. You could put him with McDavid like you did Hyman, and I bet you he starts playing well. When he was playing with Bergeron and Marchand, he had 50 points in 64 games. It's just, and DeBrusk has been rumored to be going. And I just think maybe if you're going to give up a 1st-round pick, don't give it up for Adam Henrique and Sam Carrick. That seems like an unreal return for those two. Look, Carrick is 32, man. Like, I don't know. That's just my personal feel about that trade. I don't think it's that good in terms of. I think it's good they got players. I think they gave up too much. I think they gave up too much for those 2 players when looking at comparable trades and also looking at players that might fit in a little bit better to their scheme and to their future as well. Here is one that I was kind of baffled by when it happened. Casey Middlestat for Bowen Byram, 1-for-1, no picks involved. Middlestat was the leading scorer on Buffalo. Bowen Byram, everyone thought the guy of the future for Colorado, the defenseman of the future. Everyone was high on him for a while, and he's still a solid defenseman. He'll be good for the Sabres, I think. He has 20 points in 55 games as a D-man. That is very solid. But he is he's 3 years younger than Middlestat. He's 3 years younger than Middlestat. That Colorado Avalanche has already got a stacked offensive, top six, bottom six offensive team. They're already stacked offensively. The defense it's good. Obviously, Cale Makar, Devin Tays. It's good. The Avalanche are just good all around. Let me look at the line combinations here. They get Casey Middlestat, Valeri Nichushkin, another solid player here. Druin, I think, has been playing well. Lekkonen's a guy that I never thought would have went anywhere. But you trade for Sean Walker, and then you trade away Bowen Byram, who, I mean, honestly, probably going to be better than Sam Girard. They're 3 years younger once again. Probably going to be better than Josh Manson, who's 32. I don't understand why you're trading a 22-year-old defenseman for a 25-year-old forward who I believe is on an expiring deal. Maybe is Bowen Byram on an expiring deal? I don't know Bowen Byram's contract. But I don't understand why you would trade him. Yeah, Bowen Byram is signed through 24-25. Middlestat might be signed too. I don't think he's supposed to be a free agent anytime soon. Yeah, I think he's... No, he is. Middlestat's... His contract's up after this year. So you're trading a guy in Bowen Byram who is a solid defenseman, still has upsides, only 22. You're trading him for Casey Middlestat, who will be a free agent. He's an RFA. A free agent at the end of the season. I don't understand, especially with the year Middlestat's having, because Middlestat's having a good year. He's probably going to ask for upwards of $4 or $5 million. He's proved himself here. There's no way you're going to get him for under what you think. He's got 47 and 62 games. There's no way you're going to sign him for under $4 million. And then, like I said, if Bowen Byram was going to want more, which he probably will, you've got him for another year. You can figure that out there. It's just an interesting trade to trade a young guy with upside for a guy who could ultimately be traded again in the offseason. Our next one, another big one, I should say. Sean Walker to the Colorado Avalanche in a 5th-round pick in 2026 from the Philadelphia Flyers for Ryan Johansson and a conditional 1st-round pick. Now, I'm not sure what the condition is here. Let me see if I can read up on it. But obviously, that's the big ticket, that conditional 1st-round pick. Like, Ryan Johansson was waived. They're pretty well not planning on having him too long. I can't find the condition here. I don't think it says. But once again, Johansson will also be a free agent at the end of the year. Sean Walker has really established himself this year as a solid NHL defenseman. And I think that's a big reason why he got dealt for what he did, a conditional first. You go back and you look at, 1 year that sticks out to me defenseman-wise, well, any of the past few years, honestly. The defense market's always it's always a driven way up because defense, wins hockey games, whatever. But the Savard trade in 2021, where he was dealt to Tampa for a 1st-round pick, is what really sticks out. And Sean Walker, I don't think he's as old as what Savard was then. Sean Walker's 29. I don't know if David Savard was 29 then. I think he's 33. That would have been 3 years ago. So he would have been 30, roughly same age. Similar sort of defenseman. Savard more defensive. Sean Walker's been having more of I'd say an offensive year. He's had 22 and 63. But I guess their thought process was trade Byram and then replace him with Walker, which, Walker's probably has more experience if you're wanting a player who's been around for a while. I guess you can go there. But like I said, Byram is just I'm just kind of confused about the whole Byram thing. I need to look at the Sean Walker trade. I think it's a big trade. I think a first round pick, honestly, in the conditions there, I think that's a good value for him. I think Sean Walker has earned his trade status, and I think it is interesting that Philly is in a playoff spot and traded probably one of their better defensemen. But that's besides the point. I think that Philly knows what they're doing. They know that they are probably, this could be a one-off year because that team still isn't where it needs to be in the future to continue going forward as a playoff team. So, get the most out of a guy while you can while still pushing for playoffs. Obviously, you want to make the playoffs here. Everyone wants to make the playoffs. Florida acquiring Vladimir Tarasenko from the Ottawa Senators for a conditional 4th-round pick and a 3rd-round pick in 2025. I like Vladimir Tarasenko. I think this trade was really, really crazy. Not really crazy. I think Tarasenko he's getting up there in age. So I think a 3rd-round pick, little bit of a underpayment, I think. I think you could have gave a little bit more. He's 32. I think maybe he could have fetched a second. I mean, he's got 41 points in 57 games, and he got traded. Listen to this. This is crazy. He got traded for less than what Adam Henrique and Sam Carrick did, who are both older or the same age and who are objectively probably worse than Vladimir Tarasenko, if I'm being honest. But that's besides the point. I think it's a great trade for Florida. I'm excited to see what he does because I like Tarasenko. He was part of the deadline last year with the Rangers, and I enjoy the Rangers thoroughly. I always will. And we've got one more trade here to look at right now because everything else is a little bit too far in the past for me to really go over. I mean, there's some trades I could, but this is the one that kicked off the whole deadline and really probably not going to be much action tomorrow because that's what happens nowadays. The Mantha trade. Once again, Mantha going to Vegas for a 2nd-round pick and a 4th-round pick. 2nd being in 2024 and the 4th being in 2026. Mantha has really reconstructed himself this year. He's playing with more offense. He's honestly was a big part of all the scoring that was happening in Washington because Ovechkin has not been doing jack squat. He's a 20-goal guy. He's a guy that I think both the Capitals and the Red Wings were just kind of waiting on him to pan out. He had some good years with Detroit, and then when he went to Washington, it was kind of a waiting thing. I think Vrana was in the same situation too. Vrana had some good years with Washington. It was a waiting booth. And I think the wait is finally paying off. I think he is kind of stepping back into what he was when he was in Detroit and put up almost 3-4 40-point seasons in a row. I think he's on pace. Well, maybe not on pace. I was going to say he's doing well. He might be able to get 14 more points in the season, especially playing on Vegas, but his career high is 48. He has a good chance to hit 48 this year, I'd say. I think it's a good trade. 2nd round and a 4th. Once again, I think Mantha's better. Trading for Mantha is better than trading a 1st for Henrique and Carrick. I just can't believe they gave up a 1st for those two. I think it's a good trade for Vegas. I don't think they're done. Vegas is super aggressive on the deadline. They've got LTIR cap from Stone, who always goes on LTIR at this time. And yeah, that's pretty well all I've got for those guys. Now, I'm just going to go off of a NHL trade. Honestly, I'll probably go off of TSN trade bait and see who we've got. Okay. This is, as of February 21st. They really didn't update this? Okay. Trade bait 3 days ago. March 5th. This is what I'll go off of. Um, the top three, two of which have already been traded, one of which might be traded, and that is Jake Gensel, who there's talks of him going to Carolina. I have no idea what the return will be. It's got to be huge because Vancouver and Boston were both, well, Vancouver was in on him, and they were willing to trade Lindholm, who they had traded for previously. They were willing to give him to Boston and use what they got for him to go after Gensel. But the price was too high. Too high. Meaning whatever they would have got for Lindholm, they would not have even been able to trade for Gensel. Which is unreal to me because they gave up a decent amount for Lindholm in the first place. And it's just crazy to think that they would do that. I couldn't believe it because Gensel has been on the trade block for a minute. I mean, obviously it wasn't solidified. They thought maybe he'd come back, but the fact that they, I don't know, didn't wait closer to pick up Lindholm, I guess, or go after Gensel, it just feels like maybe they are kind of regretting their decision a little bit. But that's okay. I think Gensel obviously going to Carolina, I think that'll be done tonight. I don't think there's really much I need to discuss there. I just need to wait on the return, and if the return comes while I'm on the podcast, I'll talk about it. I think it'll be massive for sure. I don't really know what crap. I don't really know what Carolina could give up. Like, I've been thinking, like, players on Carolina. I think Michael Bunting is part of it, but, like, we're going to give Michael Bunting in a first for Jake Gensel. Like, Gensel is a really good player. He's obviously the best player on the block right now, and I just can't even imagine what he'll fetch. We'll go down to Jacob Chitrin here, who is a guy that I honestly would like to see Columbus get at some point in his career. I think he's solid. I don't think he will go to Columbus, and honestly, I don't think he'll even be traded. It'll be very surprising if he's traded, but if he is, I think he'll go to one of those contending teams that need defense, like a Tampa or an Edmonton or a Boston, one of those teams. I think there's a good chance. I don't know who's kicking on him. I don't know if anybody's asked about him. Also, he could go to a team that's not a contender. He could go to a team that just wants him for next year, which is where Columbus could step in. You know, they won't, though, and I don't really want them to. I don't think they should make really any deals at the deadline. I think there's a few they could make, but I don't think they're going to. Vetrano is a big one here. Vetrano, I don't remember who's been in on him, but he has had a stellar year. He's a guy I never would have thought would have taken off in his the 29 age 29 season. He's already got his career high in 62 games. Like, he was solid last year, and he's been solid his career. He hasn't been anything too good. Like, he's been, decent. 39 points in 18-19 solid, but 49 this year. He's going to be a 30-goal scorer. At one point, he was leading the league in goals, I believe, and I just couldn't believe it. I think the Rangers are looking in on him, which I would like to see. If I had to pick a team, I would like to see the Rangers. Once again, I don't know who the Rangers would trade. I don't know what Vetrano will fetch. I'd assume probably a first round at least, and maybe Capo Caco. Maybe get rid of one of your top six wingers and put him up there. I like Caco, though, but Caco just hasn't really worked out as much as everyone thought he would. Same thing with Lafreniere. He's been solid, though. He's been better. It's just taking him a minute to get there to where he is. I am very intrigued to see where Vetrano goes. I do think it'll be New York. I am intrigued to see what the return is as well. Matt Dumba, I would honestly put Edmonton. That's got Edmonton's name all over it. A guy like Matt Dumba, because he's not too expensive, and he probably won't be, he'll probably play a second or third pairing role. So I definitely could see Edmonton going after that. But Boston also could have some interest. Let's see. I'm just trying to see if there's any rumors on him right now. Anyone asking? Oh, Alex Turigny. Or Andre Turigny. I like Turigny. I said Alex. I'm dumb. Maple Leafs are in on him. I don't think the Maple Leafs will go after him after getting Edmondson. if they add another freaking defenseman like that, I'm going to be so freaking mad because that's something I hate, absolutely hate about the Leafs. It's just, they just always are adding defensemen, man, especially like that. Jake Markstrom, I think he will be a New Jersey Devil. I don't think it will be at the deadline. I think it'll be in the summer. And I think he will ultimately be a big piece in the future. Well, I say future. He's in his 20s. He's kind of old. Well, he's in his 20s. He's kind of old. He's in his upper 20s, I believe, which is older, especially for... Oh, he's not in his upper 20s. I am horrendous. He's 34, so he's old. He's not going to be part of the future. He's got like a year or two there in New Jersey. So he's got like next year in New Jersey if he goes. I think he will be solid for him. I think he will really keep him in. I think New Jersey could use a goalie like him. He's a big guy, very, very solid, and I really wish the Flames were a little bit better than what they were because they had all the pieces and then they just weren't, and then they just traded everybody, and now they are going to be rebuilding for years to come, I have a feeling, and it's going to be sad. Let's do a few more here. I'm going to touch up on my Blue Jackets because there's a couple on here. There's a few blue. I'm just going to talk about my Blue Jackets. Jack Roslovic, hate the guy. Okay, I shouldn't say I hate the guy. I don't like Jack Roslovic as a Blue Jacket. I really want him to be traded. I don't think he'll fetch much. Maybe at most a fourth rounder because he's not that solid. But I could see him going to Boston and playing, and I could see everyone going to Boston. I could see him going to Boston and playing in that bottom six in a center role or a winger role. Like I said, fourth round pick will probably be all we get. Maybe a conditional fourth or conditional fifth that turns into a fourth. Like, I don't expect us to get anything. Peak is going to get bought out this summer, I'm afraid. I don't think he will be a Jacket much longer. I don't think there's a trade market for him either. I think he's got 2 years left on his deal, so he'll be bought out this year. He'll have a year left, so it won't be too bad for us. I think with that being said, when he does get bought out, he will most likely, I think he'll probably sign with Edmonton. I don't know. I have weird takes, honestly. I think the Oilers and the Bruins are getting everybody. You can flame me for that or whatever. Another one I'm interested in is Ivan Provorov, which he's not on this trade bait board, but he has been talked about being traded, which we just traded for him. We gave up a first as well, which is kind of a steep price for Ivan Provorov, if you ask me. Yeah, we gave up first. So we gave up LA's first for him. I don't know if he even likes it in Columbus, to be honest with you. I don't think he associates himself with the other Russian players as much as you would think because, it's interesting. I think if he does get traded at the deadline, it'll be to Tampa or Boston. I could see Tampa definitely going after him. I doubt he'll fetch a first just because his defensive game really isn't there. That's the thing with the Jackets is we have a lot of offensive defensemen, and it is just super, super annoying because we have a lot of defensemen in general. But having a lot of offensive defensemen is just not a whole lot of defense being played. And the defenseman we have that's a defensive defenseman is Eric Gudbranson. And he is not the best defenseman I've ever seen. He is honestly one of my least favorite defensemen in the league. Getting paid $4 million too, which is unreal. But I think Provorov will probably fetch us. He could fetch us a first rounder if we're lucky. I don't even know if Tampa still has their first rounder. I think they do. They haven't made any trades yet. But I could see him going for a first rounder and us sending like a fifth back or something like that with him. I would hope. I honestly don't know what the market's like for him right now. Yeah, anyways. That's pretty much all I got. That's my trade deadline rundown, I guess. My first episode of my NHL podcast as well, which I will probably do either weekly or bi-weekly. I don't know if I'll do it once a week or every other week. We'll see. Anyways, I assume I'll probably only get better at this. This is my first time. Remember that. I am not the best at this stuff, and I am also recording this on my phone, so I appreciate if you stuck through this long. I don't think many people did, but thank you. And I will see you guys next week. Maybe I'll be on vacation, maybe next Saturday, or maybe I'll just drop these when I feel. Peace.